Welcome to the Investor Fuel Real Estate Investing Show, where I interview the nation's top real estate entrepreneurs, industry leaders, and other amazing entrepreneurs to help educate and inspire you to take your business and your life to the next level. My goal is to add tremendous value to you during every single episode of this show. If you get value, I'd love it if you subscribe on your favorite podcast player, subscribe on YouTube, and my very favorite, please share this with your community so we can impact even more entrepreneurs. Let's start today's show. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm here with the one and only Rafael Cortez, good friend of mine, beast of a real estate investor, podcaster, male model. What else are you doing these days? But we're going to be talking about, he really is an engineer, and we talk a lot about systems and operations and how to build a more profitable business. So we're going to kind of break down areas in your business to systematize more. Sometimes that doesn't sound sexy, but the result is sexy. The additional money you can make, the additional profit you can pull out of your business. So, Rafael, thanks for coming in from Phoenix today, buddy.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for the invite. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. We've swapped podcasts a few times over the years, so always good to see you. Always love hanging out with you.
Yeah, my audience loves you, man. Like, tons of value every time you show up. So.
It's because it's mostly female. Like, the ladies love me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, there's something there.
That's just a joke. I don't think they love me, but it makes me feel good briefly. So, yeah. So, hey, we're going to be talking about you've always been. I know you have a background in organizational psychology, very much an engineering mindset, and unlike few people, I've seen some of the systems that you create. I mean, that's really your approach, is how to systematize your business. And this is generally not for the brand newbie. This is for the person that's trying to scale. Would you agree with that? Or
Yeah. I mean, it depends on what what stage of the business you're in, but there comes a point where you have to start thinking more methodically about building it up. So yeah.
So tell us your background. For those that don't know you, I think a lot of people on here probably do know you, but for those that don't, tell us your background and how you got into the business.
I started as a firefighter, and when I was 19 years old, I did that for a few years. While I was there, that's where I discovered my first mentor, indirect mentor, right? My captain. And it just kind of, he helped me, see things from a bigger perspective, because he would, right? So I just started paying attention to what this guy was doing. And then coming into the systems and processes side, I mean, we had SOPs. That's the first time I ever heard about SOPs, standard operating procedures. Mm-hmm. Everything at the fire department is an SOP.
Sure, yeah.
From how you wash the truck, first man pack attack, two man pack attack, the drills, everything is an SOP. So there's standardizing on that. There's standard when it comes to the testing, you're going through those processes. You have SOPs, and then you have critical criteria. So it forced me to start seeing things in a very systematic way, right? Even though before then I don't know what a system or a process was.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it all started. Then I jumped into I launched my first business, which had nothing to do with real estate. It was a transportation business. Did that for years, sold it back in 2014. But in the interim, I started fixing and flipping in 2009. So I started fixing and flipping while I had this other business, and then started wholesaling. A couple of years after I started fixing and flipping. And so I kind of did it backwards. But, like I said earlier, there comes a point where you're doing so many things, you're going to get bottlenecked. So I started thinking about, okay, how were we able to do all those things back at the fire department? The way that I built the transportation business was very methodical as well. So it's all, systems and processes and ops, right? And like you said, it's not the sexy conversation, but ultimately, I think as entrepreneurs, we're looking for freedom. We're looking for this next level life. We can't get that if we're working all the time, man.
That's right. There's no doubt. Yeah, I think it's like you can have if you can operate a smooth business, and I think a lot of people, especially if you're newer, we're like, this business is not like HGTV,
Oh, it's messy.
Right. There's too much drama. Like if you have drama in your business, your business is suffering, right? And so you want no drama in your business, which doesn't make it sexy. But if you run a smooth ship, you can get sexy. Like the benefit of running a smooth ship is
it's a byproduct.
It's a sexy lifestyle, right? Whatever that means for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I didn't have, for example, like the stuff I have in place, I wouldn't be able to take off on a Wednesday and come visit you. In Dallas.
You putting out a fire right now, or
exactly,
fighting with a contractor or something.
Yeah, and not to say that you completely step away from it. I mean, I'm an operator at heart, So I'm still tapped into what's going on and whatnot, but it's more of a consultant base, as opposed to me pulling all the, the levers and the buttons and pushing the buttons and all that stuff.
Right.
So you still have this big part of the operation, I think, but the heavy lifting is done by everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So we're going to get into, just talking about how to systematize some key areas of your business. And today we're going to go over kind of sourcing or marketing, like lead gen, how to convert those, how to be better at acquisitions, dispositions, and most importantly, the part that you said a lot of people leave out is kind of measuring those things so you can continue to improve the performance of those things. A lot of people just
yeah,
set up a process and forget about it. And I was talking about this with somebody yesterday. Like a lot of SOPs or a process that you create or a checklist or whatever is almost outdated the moment you finish it. Like these things live on forever, right? And I think
right.
a lot of entrepreneurs set it up and then they use it for a little while and then like, well, they start to get some scope creep where they start doing it a little bit differently and they're like, well, we have this process but it's out of date, and so just like do it like this. So next thing you know, you're not even
Yeah,
doing the process you created because they're not maintaining them over time.
yeah, they're not maintaining them, or I mean, they become outdated, and then people like you said, they deviate from the process itself, so they stop fine tuning. And next thing you know, you feel like you have SOPs in place, but they're not working. You don't know why.
Right.
It's accountability. So like you said, it is a living. I mean, it's a living process. It's a living document. Every SOP is going to be a living document. Especially, man, think about it, right? Like we're living dog years when it comes to real estate. Everything moves so quick. I mean, marketing strategies change from one month to the next. Policy hits, red tape hits, and then boom, you got to scrap out, half of whatever your sourcing strategy was, and or do something else in place. Like you need to have uh, things in place that you can lean on to just be able to keep adding stuff and modifying your business and
Right.
improving it, right? And more importantly, you got to have the team on board,
Yeah.
which is the whole other 70% of it.
Let's talk about like I mean, I could see you as the owner talking about how to keep the SOPs fresh and redefine the process. But a lot of your intention is really to kind of hand off, this is a process to somebody that's going to go do the job. But in my experience, it's hard to have somebody that like does the job and is also thinking about how to continue to keep those SOPs fresh, how to continue to improve the process. Like we tend to kind of sometimes hire just a person that just does the job, and that's fine for a while until the role changes, right? And they don't necessarily keep those things up to date, so that if somebody else had to step in that role, they could just grab that process document or checklist or whatever it is and just run with it because they didn't keep it up to date.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, when we're looking at something and have a 30,000 foot view of it, we're going to have we need to know enough about every single aspect of the business so that we're dangerous in it. We don't need to be the expert, right? For example, I don't need to be the best dispo guy in the world, but I can hire somebody who's going to be way better at it than me. The thing too is that if we have stoppers, if we have somewhat safeguards, call them, right? Operational safeguards, we can create this lane. They can become really, really good at this one lane, and then we can empower them to, hey, if there's something that you see that might work better, let me know. Let's voice it out. Let's play with it. Let's brainstorm on it. We'll try it out.
Yeah.
I do that with my entire team. I mean, from the VAs to my operations manager. It's like, what are you guys seeing that I'm not seeing? Right now, my job is to not be so much in the weeds that I can't see beyond them.
Right.
I need to be able to look at the thing from up here and then see all the lanes and how they're operating. Where are the bottlenecks when I'm designing this, right? After a period of time, I delegate that to my director of operations, and we have this way of him finding out where the bottlenecks are through KPIs and trackers. But it's important, right, to just have a clear identity of each one of the lanes, right? What role goes into each one of the lanes, and then people are going to be able to, become really, really good at that, that lane, not necessarily, master of all. One thing that I see often is, oh, I'm going to hire an acquisitions person, and then that acquisition person has to do the cold calling, the sourcing. They have to do the pre-qualification. They also have to do a negotiation. And sometimes, if like you know what, you already have the relationship built out, just dispo the deal. And they're doing four or five different lanes that are
Right.
they're not specialized. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that you said a moment ago is you kind of have your operations manager keep an eye on, but not everybody has an operations manager, right? It's like the owner.
Yeah.
And a lot of times their skill set is they kind of cut their teeth on being good at acquisitions. They just hustled in there, the sale kind of quote sales guy or saleswoman, right? And the other stuff is just stuff you have to do once you acquire something, right? And you just kind of hustle your way to it. So you're often like not thinking about how to improve each thing like a factory like you do. You run it like a production line, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Not everybody thinks that way, and then not everybody has the kind of operations manager that's kind of making sure that each of those processes is redefined frequently.
Right. One thing I think it's important to understand too, that we're going to create roles within the business, right? So, for example, even right now, if you're a solopreneur and you're operating, you have a wholesale business, understand that you're going to be the VA, you're going to be the cold caller, you are the acquisitions rep, you are the transaction coordinator, you are the dispo rep, you are the director of operations. Like, you're wearing all the hats. So the one of the first things, for example, that I emphasize is identifying which role is what, which lane is what, because then we know what to hire for, and you start filling in those little gaps that create bottlenecks. Right.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't start off with a director of operations. And as a matter of fact, for many years, I didn't have. I was filling up that role.
Right.
Right. And if you look at my organizational matrix, I do have a director of operations. So basically, me as the owner, I have one-on-one meetings and sit-downs with the director of operations. We do huddles. I'll jump into the huddles, but my director of operations runs them. Mm-hmm. I don't run the huddles. And then everybody else reports to him, right? So instead of me talking to the acquisitions manager, dispo manager, the VAs, and having all these conversations, everything just kind of funnels over to this one person that needs to have a pulse on the accountability of the business, right? So, and I talk to that person. That allows me to see, okay, like this is what we're seeing, this is what we're not seeing. So I get to dissect it, I guess, from a easier standpoint once it's been processed. But for that to happen, again, you have to have the lanes. For example, I break down the business into 6 different lanes or stages. Mm-hmm. Right. First one is going to be sourcing, and when you're sourcing, you're looking for. Let's use wholesaling as a model here. But this framework, I literally use it for the brokerage when I do consulting on businesses, just period. And I'm working with a chiropractic clinic right now. I've done gyms, restaurants, and stuff like that. The framework, it's still the same, right? You're gonna source. You have to source your clientele, right? So you source your clients. I mean, in wholesaling, we can do cold calling, we do pay per click, we do, which is, I mean, right now it's killing it, by the way. Yeah. We do direct mail, we do, all those different, points of
marketing channels.
Marketing channels, yeah. Then we push them over to that second lane, which is pre-qualification or conversion, right? So, if you have 1,000 records that you source, you don't want those 1,000 records going to acquisitions because they're going to bottleneck the process there. So you want to have a way of dequalifying people, and that's where that conversion process comes in.
Okay.
When I was sourcing originally, I would just get everything done from the get-go and push it over to acquisitions. And I mean, it was just a cluster. There was a lot of bad leads. We felt like we were super busy, but we were just talking to bad leads. So when I rolled out the pre-qualification or the conversion stage, we started dequalifying a lot, and then the numbers got better, right? So you source 1,000 records per se. 100 of those end up being somebody that we can actually make an offer to, and then out of those, maybe 10 end up working with our acquisitions reps.
So in the conversion stage for real estate investors, that would probably be a role of like a lead manager that's taking calls, qualifying them. Yeah, getting rid of the junk that's not going to turn into anything, so that your acquisitions or sales team isn't talking to everybody that can fog a mirror. They're just talking to the people that their expectations are reset, they're qualified, they are looking to sell their house at a discount or things like that.
Yeah, and there's a specific conversation that takes place there. But yes, you are going through that dequalification conversation, and then again, every lane has a role, right? So lead managers are in the conversion stage. On the sourcing, you're going to have your cold callers, you're going to have your operations in the direct mail, process, and PPC team, so it's different roles in those lanes. And you get to the third one is going to be acquisitions.
Yep.
So, I mean, that one's pretty self-explanatory. The way that I break it down to my acquisition guys is like, you have one job, negotiate the signature, right? The follow-up goes into there, and I mean, I feel like that role right there. It's very different than, for example, having a cold caller responsibility, right? The turnover is a lot higher on the cold calling, and so I have a big, like, it just creates conflict like in my heart and my mind when somebody is like, yes, my acquisition rep is cold calling as well. They're sourcing their own leads. You're gonna burn them out.
Yeah.
The skills are different. The patience is different. So.
And you said follow up. You consider that part of the acquisitions kind of stage. So you have your acquisitions people doing probably not all follow up, but some follow up.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
hot lead follow-up.
So part of the SOP on acquisitions that we have is we go through this standard procedure, right? Where we'll call back to back, 3 times and go through this whole thing. Then we get to this point where if they ghost us, if they start ignoring us, and 3 times we go through 3 days of calling a couple of times. If they start ignoring us, they send them back to the lead manager. So we kick them back a level, right, to that conversion stage again, and they take over the follow up. So my acquisition people are not swamped.
Right.
So when we roll in the morning and open up the CRM and we look at what's on the schedule for today, we're like, those are actual leads. They're not dead follow ups that we've been trying to get on the phone for a month, right?
Yeah.
On the acquisition side. So that's stage 3 is acquisitions. Then of course you lock up the contract, you get negotiated, then you push it over to your dispo team, your dispo managers. In my dispo lane, I do have, I mean, it's the most, I think it's the heaviest workload of the entire business. So for example, I have two VAs in there that are doing the advertising of the deals. So they put together the website posts, they upload to Investor Lift, they do the email sequences and all that stuff.
Yeah.
My dispo manager and dispo sales rep, I mean, all they're doing is jumping on the phone, taking calls in, and then calling their VIP buyers list, actually picking up the phone and having conversations, because I want them having sales calls.
Yeah.
So it like, as you can see, right, you have this conveyor belt of the lane that they're working on, the roles that have to be fulfilled in each one of those lanes, and then each one of those lanes also has an SOP for accountability.
Yeah. So let's we might dive back into some of these, but like Dispo, for example, I think right away, in terms of, if we kind of position this whole show as like finding ways to squeeze more juice out of that fruit that you already have, like how to improve your operations to build a more profitable business. For too long, and I think obviously Dispo has been a challenge over the past couple of years, not as easy as it has been in years past, right? Is you have your Dispo folks on the phone calling potential buyers to talk about a deal, where most people are just spraying and praying. They're kind of putting it online somewhere on their website, some platform, and blasting it out and just seeing what happens. Or they might put it in a system and text out an email or text, right? But you're calling people. So just talk about that, because that a lot of people are leaving money on the table by not actively having conversations with people, because everybody's tuned out to getting hundreds of emails a day and a bunch of spammy texts and stuff like that. So just talk about that a bit.
Yeah, it's I mean, we're still in the people business. So what my dispo team, my manager, my reps, I mean, their main role is to create relationships with buyers in all these markets. Right. And we started doing the virtual wholesaling, so it became even more important, right? As like, and so we have this very robust process. I have a 21-day dispo process that includes doing everything short of putting a banner in the sky with a plane, about a property that we get, right? So it's very robust.
I've seen your process. It's good. Yeah.
It's and those are like, that's the VA team handling that part. So it's not a crazy budget break right there, because it's VAs doing it. Yeah. But what happens is that that process of posting and going through all these, these steps generates inbound calls, right? So that's one way of keeping the guys busy on actual conversations.
Yeah.
It's strictly prohibited to negotiate deals via text. There's one dude that we do that with just because he's a beast and we know how he operates. Shout out to Spencer Caldwell in the Valley over there in Phoenix. But I mean, this guy, like, he's like, if you know Spencer, you know that all he does is negotiate, but he buys, he closes, right? So we have that relationship with it. But they're strictly prohibited from negotiating deals over text.
Yeah.
Jump on a call, have a conversation with them, build a relationship, know what they want, right? And that's essentially the crazy thing, Mike, is that's what we start doing when we get into the business. We're catering, we're having this attention to detail in the customer, support process and everything. And as soon as we start locking up a few deals or we hire, we let go of that, and that's when people start forgetting about what we do, right?
Yeah, I saw, this was completely unrelated, and I'm just saying this off the cuff, but I saw somebody yesterday post something on social media, and then I know this is like super tangent here, but they posted something and then they commented on their own post, like, here's like 6 steps of how to do something, and it was like 6 comments. And then somebody's like, what tool are you using to automatically do all these comments on your own posts?
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm like, there's nothing. They did this manually.
Yeah.
But it's just funny that a lot of entrepreneurs go, like, how do I push a button and not have to really do this stuff? And there's some things that, especially relationship things, that, I mean, that's the problem, is everybody's numb to getting 6 million emails a day and texts blowing up all the time. Like, the art that's lost is the actual relationship piece, right? Which is crazy.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And the whole point of, doing all this, activity, and pushing the deals out and all this work and hiring and locking up, it's so we can have somebody to talk to about a deal that we have, right? I think at least the market does not lend itself to do that right now. Go back to 2020 when inventory was, nothing, and you throw a property out there and like, people would just snatch it. They didn't care where it came from because there was no supply and there was a lot of demand. It's not the case. Right.
But even then, you and I think you probably agree with me, if you were doing it with your style of building relationships with people were just getting sloppy and it was easy, but they probably could have gotten another $3 to $5 grand on a deal, or maybe more, just by having those personal relationships.
Exactly. Now another thing that happens too is, like, maybe, when you don't build the personal relationships, you're leaving a ton of money on the table. You're leaving a lot of money because you're not building your buyers list. For example, the VAs that I have, I mean, their workload is pretty heavy, and they go in, they start scraping emails from social media. They'll send out communications, text messages, and do a 5-mile radius. So they start reaching out virtually, right? Electronically, like they don't pick up the phone and call buyers, but they'll send messages out and capture all those messages. When they come in, my team, my Dispo guys get it, and we start generating buyers. Every single week we're adding, I don't know, call it 20, 30 buyers to the buyers list that went through it. So we're building up that buyer list, and that's what allows you to sell the deals at a higher price. If you're selling to the same guys all the time, you become employed.
I kind of give this joke I had. There's a while back, I was wholesaling deals to a guy. I think I sold him 3 or 4 deals, and then he started asking, like, "Hey man, I'm a good customer. Can you knock like $5 grand off of this one?" Like, $5,000. Like, how about I buy you a beer? Like, I mean, $5,000 is a lot of money. But there's a lot of people, and I've kind of mentored some people that are in our mastermind and stuff like that. That keep selling to the same 5 or 10 people. And I was like, you're leaving money on the table by not, because there just starts to, you're going after convenience, and,
right?
And it's easier, but you're leaving money on the table.
Yeah, and again, SOPs, having a standardized process is what lets you, like, for example, do all that kind of stuff, and still not be sitting in front of the computer for 23 hours a day. Yeah. So I mean, that's a Dispo process. I think the relationship building part of it is the thing that I lean on the most. It's not it's not, how many text messages did you send out? I don't care. We can send out 5,000 text messages through launch control in 2 seconds.
In a minute.
Yeah, exactly. How many conversations did you have? How many, where are we at on this? My Dispo team also has a transaction coordinator. So we have an in-house transaction coordinator that makes everything easier. So that the roles on just the Dispo alone, right? You have the sales team, you have the VAs, and then you have the transaction coordinator. Every role has different SOPs. So every role has their own, like, for example, we get a property through or into Whiteboard. We call it Whiteboard when inventory, and it triggers a starting process for each one of those people, right? So as escrow is being opened by transaction coordinator, the marketing campaign is being kicked off by the VA team, and then the Dispo sales guys are already picking up the phone and having conversations. All this happens within an hour of us getting a deal through the door. So again, you can't do that kind of stuff without SOPs. Yeah. One thing that makes it all work, and this is the glue, is morning huddles. As simple as it sounds, morning huddles. Yep. They don't have to be every day. They don't have to be super long. I mean, our huddles are about 15 minutes long. Yep. My entire team is virtual, and it's where are we at? What do we need? What do we need help with? And we go through TC, we go through acquisitions, we go through Dispo real quick. What's live on the board, and then everybody just goes into their daily, right? So it's kind of like the morning kickoff call. It just energizes the team, puts everybody on the same page, and that's what keeps the accountability and the SOPs alive. That's great. Because when the question comes up, it's like, okay, what do I have to do now? It's like, what does the SOP say? Right. You always take your people back to the SOPs.
Yeah, go back to
yeah.
So far we've gone over sourcing, converting, acquisitions, and dispositions. So what else is
the last two? Usually, what happens, and I probably said it a million times too, but somebody will sell a deal, they'll go right back to sourcing, right? So they'll go right back to the cold call, to the first step of the process. Yeah, start all over again. But if you're not tracking, if your KPIs, if you don't know what your cost per lead is, if you're not just aware of what's bringing in the revenue on a regular basis for you, for example, you're not going to be able to improve, right? You're not going to be able to improve, and you're not going to be able to scale or even plug people into it, because it's really hard to keep people accountable when we don't know what they need to be fulfilling on, right? We know the tasks, but like if you want to get pragmatic on this, like, right, okay, for like my cold calling team, they have to they got to have 80 to 120 conversations, that's a number, boom, that's something that we can hit, right? So you start to create KPIs for each one of the lanes, each one of the roles. You guys are, KPI tracking and all that. You talk about that all the time. So having a good scorecard, having a good, guide that allows you to not just track what happened, but forecast where you can be if you keep up the trend, is a very, very important tool, right? So measure every deal. After we close, we see what happened with the deal, how long did it take for this deal to close, what campaign did it come from, how much did we spend to get this particular deal, and then you start to create this picture. After a while, it takes time, right? But after a while, you start to create this picture, and it's like, okay, cool, my money is better, invested if I go down the direct mail route than if I do the cold calling. Yeah. So what do? You do that. Having the numbers in one place, and as silly as it sound, not a lot of people have improvement sessions. So yeah, we track the KPIs, and usually we know what the numbers are, but you don't proactively get into this habit of okay, we have the metrics, how can we improve them? And we have this set of questions that we go and we just answer after every deal. And it takes us, realistically, man, I think it takes us maybe 15, 20 minutes to dissect the deal from beginning to end on the measuring, part, and then the improvement little session about it.
And these are asking every person on your team, like just kind of
Yeah.
going through the whole factory, the whole production line, and saying what could we have done better here or there.
Correct. And we do those on an operations meeting. So I do have an ops meeting, which is longer. It's 60 minutes. If we're loaded, we're like really backed up on stuff, it'd be 90 minutes. Those happen usually on Tuesdays.
Okay.
So we kick those off on Tuesdays. And then, but every other day we have a huddle, right? So on the operations meeting is like, okay, what did we close last week? Okay. Where did we leave money on the table? Do we have to renegotiate because of timelines? And sometimes, like for example, a recent one, right? We had to do an extension because we were playing with the idea of not opening escrow until we had a buyer for it, right? Because I mean, there's an attrition percentage.
Sure.
There. So like, okay, let's see how we can make it lighter. So we didn't open escrow. We ended up opening escrow when we found a buyer, but then we had to get an extension for the deal, right? We thought it was gonna close off, but close well, but we had to go through a quick probate, and that pushed the closing date 2 weeks and whatnot. The only reason we were able to keep that together is because we sacrificed $5,000 additional pay for the seller. Right. So we wouldn't have had to do that if we just, had gone, down the regular route and just open escrow right out of the gate.
Yeah.
So it's things like that.
You were doing that to try to save effort, like why open escrow if we don't have a buyer yet? Or?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And, we'll send, when we send escrows to a title agency, a lot of times, they'll depending on the title agency, especially when you're doing virtual. In my market, I really don't have that problem.
Yeah.
But we're kind of, we're testing out title companies. We're doing, trying to see, how quickly somebody moves, how slow somebody moves. And for that particular deal, we're like, let's try it out this way. Let's just get a buyer in place, open it. When we have, 10, 15 days to close on it, we needed more time, which is,
okay.
Yeah. So that's like, for example, one case where we're going down the measuring route, knowing what was the thing that delayed it and keeping track of that stuff. So now like we have it as an SOP to just, revert back to the original plan, which is open escrow.
Yeah. And you don't realize that there's improvement there. Everybody realizes there's improvement there, but if you don't have these kind of after action reviews, like these improvement meetings or improvement conversations even, then you're just like, it really never gets documented. It never makes its way back into the SOPs, right?
Yeah. And then, for example, a transaction coordinator leaves, right? A question is going to come up inevitably is, when do I open escrow when you hire the next one?
Right.
So that's already in the SOP.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And we've tried it a couple different ways. This is the best way.
Yep.
So, it's things like that as you're going through that process, you start tweaking and then you start to polish. You continue to polish, but you got to use the people too that you have in place. I mean, they're talented. We hire them for a reason, right? They're your front line.
They're the boots on the ground. They're
seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're seeing everything.
Yep.
So going into it, all these roles and lanes, they're going to be there regardless of whether you have a team of 10, 15, 20, or if you're a solo operator. It's just understanding which role you're fulfilling at which time and where your bottlenecks are.
Yeah. And what's number 6 here? What's after that?
The improvement session. That was
I see. Oh, measuring and improving.
Yeah, measuring and improving.
Yeah. So let's talk a little about mindset. Like what this has been an interesting couple of years, right? To say the least, for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
I know you talk a lot about mindset, having the right mindset, but let's talk about that. Like what it takes to be successful in this market, because a lot of people's cheese got moved, right? And some people didn't know how to find it. They didn't know how to move with it. Yeah. But I also know people that have been crushing it through this whole thing. And a lot of it is, did they have great systems and processes in place? Were they better? A lot of the better operators have fared well. And having the mindset to allow change, to allow a pivot. And some people are just trying to do it the way they've always done it and obviously crashed and burned maybe.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what mindset does it take to be successful in this market?
I think now more than ever, it's important to be nimble. And just understand that things are moving quick, right? I may be 20 years into the business, but 20 years is 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Like the stuff that was working, heck, even a year and a half ago is not necessarily, as efficient or effective now, right? Just understanding that part. Again, like I said, we're living dog years, and we have to be more tapped in than ever to what's working, what's not working, and not that you want to reshape the company every month, right? but be aware of the stuff that's in play, and understand that there's going to be policy that comes up. There's going to be red tape that just out of the blue, just it wasn't there last month, now it is. If you're not tracking, if you're not keeping tab of again some type of metric or form or the numbers of your business, you're not going to be able to catch that stuff. The reason who are crushing it, we've seen it. I honestly, I like seasons like this because it thins out the herd. Since I started in 2009, I've seen it, more than a handful of times, right? Where it gets a little tough, and then next thing you know, there's less offers out there.
That's right.
There's more people jumping into, I don't know, drop shipping or something.
Crypto.
Yeah, exactly. So losing or jumping from the vertical, right? But I like it because the when it thins out the herd, and then the operators that are serious about it build up the business, and it's really an opportunity zone.
Yeah.
So that's how I like to see it. I think the mindset is like, man, I don't know everything, right? I have systems and processes in place, but it doesn't mean that they can't be improved. It doesn't mean that the team knows everything, or we've been doing things for the last 3 years this way.
Mm-hmm.
Why can we tweak it and improve a little bit?
Sure.
Another thing that rolls right into that is what kind of relationships and resources are you stacking, right? If you're not jumping into masterminds, if you're not having conversations with people who are further ahead than you, you're really missing out on gold out there.
No
because
doubt.
it's again, it just cracks your skull open to a different perspective.
Yeah. It helps you see what's possible.
Yeah.
We have a lot of preconceived notions. Oh, that doesn't work. Oh, well, let me tell you why it's working for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think now it's just more important than ever to be a student. We're students.
Yeah. No.
You got
to be a lifelong student.
Yeah, exactly.
So let me ask you a little offshoot here. So are you using AI in your business at all yet? You have a very systematic approach to things, and if you are or you're not, like, what are you doing, or where do you see opportunities to integrate that into as an operator, a real estate investor? Where do you see those opportunities?
The biggest bottlenecks are on the long-term follow-up. Like that's where we identify the biggest bottleneck. Our short-term follow-up is pretty dialed in when we were very adamant about it, but of course, like, waste, right, has to go somewhere. And when I say waste, I don't mean waste leads, but the effort that we have to put into all this, so it's got to go somewhere. So next thing you know, like, okay, your long-term follow-up is super stacked, and you need to hire more people just for that specific purpose. That's where I'm rolling AI into.
Okay.
Now there's so many things. Conversational, messaging and just the phone calls, the voice. I know I've talked to AI. When I think that I'm talking to somebody, and I'm aware of what's going on, right? So I should be able to capture that stuff, but it's so good in some of these aspects that you can't even see it.
Yeah, and just imagine it even 6 months or a year from now.
Dude, it's gonna be wild if you're not tapping into something like that. I think you're gonna be left behind. So that's where we're rolling it initially for more of a setter role than anything else. So still not negotiating, not running automatic analysis where just all the numbers. There's programs out there that give you all the numbers and the stats. We still put eyes on properties and values. So yeah, that's where we're at on that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think a lot of real estate investors would love the idea of not doing any of the work and maybe AI can take this all on. But I think that building the relationships, constantly reviewing your process and refining it. Like a lot of the people that I know in this business that have done super well from those that are just kind of getting by, they do a bunch of little things better. They do a bunch of things a little bit better. Like it's not like something transformational. It's just they refine their process. They follow up a little bit better. They personalize it a little bit more. Like it's just a bunch of little things that can have a transformational result on your profit, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's those little tweaks that, if they improve you 1%, it's, that reflects on the bottom line.
Yeah.
So when it comes to systems and processes, if you want to kind of just recap it, you got to have an organizational matrix, know what your company looks like, right? Know the lanes in your company, the roles inside those lanes, and then the SOPs for each one of those roles. That's how I think about it when I'm I'm systemizing something.
And for folks, you have a advanced approach to this now. I know you share a lot of these things with other people too, but for folks that like don't have any SOPs, they don't have processes created. How do they give some kind of guidance on how to start that? Is it just by creating checklists and writing down like, then we do this, then we do this, then we do this, or how do you start that process?
The really good question. The processes and the systems are not important until you start generating revenue. So focus on the money, focus on the revenue at first, money making activities. If you're getting started, if you're getting, going and whatever vertical you're in, focus on you can't have systems and processes and people if you can't keep the lights on.
That's right.
Right. Focus on income. And if that entails, right, if what you can do right now is go door knock, pen and paper, just, you don't have to, exactly. You don't have to have this robust CRM to kick off. It's different. It's like reading a 30 chapter book and you wanting to start in chapter 20, right? And it's really what it comes down to. No, we have to go through the first 20 chapters of that book to get to the point where systems and processes is now a thing. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I do get that question quite a bit, especially from people getting into it. We will use systems and processes to justify analysis paralysis. It's like, I gotta get my SOPs or just pick up the phone, have a conversation, go door knock, pull a list, right? And I mean, there's a simple. I actually teach it for free. So how to get to that first deal within 30 days. But it's very. I mean, the approach is linear, but you don't have to have automations in place yet. Just focus on the cash, get some revenue in, and then as you get revenue in, you're gonna get new problems, right? And start working those problems one at a time.
Yeah. Awesome. Man. Yeah. If folks want to learn more about you, obviously you've got your podcast. Where can folks kind of go and learn more, follow along, connect?
I'm very active on social media. Instagram I respond to all my messages myself. Rafael Cortez CEO. That's my handle on Instagram at Rafael Cortez CEO. My YouTube channel is also Rafael Cortez CEO. I have a ton of videos in there. And then I do have a free webinar. It's reiwholesaling.com. That's the website. reiwholesaling.com. And on that one, I mean, it's just I do an hour breakdown of what you need to do to get to your first deal, and I break down I simplify what we talked about right now. I simplify it for somebody who's getting started. So it's
for newer folks. Yeah.
Cool. Yep.
Well, thanks for joining me today. Thanks for coming in from Phoenix. I appreciate it, man. Always great to see you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invite, man.
We got to do it again.
Absolutely. Name it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again for joining us. So everybody, if you're not following guys like Rafael, you need to be. So we're going to put the links down below so you can follow along with what he's working on. If you're trying to scale your business and get to the next level, he's an expert at helping you, get out of your own way and kind of create some of these processes ultimately. So hope you guys got some good value from today. This business gets better as you start to scale it up. Otherwise, it can become a job. And so not that you maybe get pulled out completely ever or for a long time from now, but there definitely is an easier way. And Rafael can kind of show you the way. And so can we. Keep following us here at Investor Fuel. Appreciate you a bunch. We'll see you on the next show. Take care. Thanks for joining us for today's show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing on your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. You can also check out the show's notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and even how to work with me directly one-on-one. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. See you on the next show.